In this video, I want to talk to you about questions that you need to ask yourself before you go to therapy. So I am so for therapy. I realize that therapy is so valuable, but I believe there's some work that we need to do before, after, during therapy that will really help us benefit from therapy. I think that we can go to a therapist, or at least I did go to a therapist, and they gonna make me out better. But the reality is, you go to therapy and they help you see things, they help you talk things out, they help you come to some decisions on your own, they help you find the solutions, they help you see who you really are, and they are all about you. During that 50 minutes, they're there to support you, they're there to encourage you, they're there to help you become a better version of yourself, there to help you heal. But without doing some of the work yourself, you don't really see the benefit of a therapy. You just go and go, maybe it becomes somebody like a girlfriend that you go and talk to. But unless you're doing the work trying to heal yourself, you don't really see the benefits of therapy. So, some things to be thinking about when you go. The first one is, you got to think about, why did you pursue therapy in the first place? What was your reason for pursuing therapy in the first place? Because it is important to have some answers, to really think about things that have happened in your life. Just sitting down, journaling, pages and pages of what has happened in your life, what's going on. What do you think the problem is? And then what do you think the root of the problem is? Like, where did it start? What happened to you? What led up to that? What happened after that? What are your actions? What have been your actions? So you want to make sure that you know what the problem is, or you spent some time thinking about your life and why it is the way it is, and especially taking responsibility, right? Because you don't want to go to a therapist and you're blaming somebody else, because probably 99% of the time we've played our part in some way. We've had some part to play. So it's important to kind of think about what the problem is, what part you play, how you contribute, how this affects you still today. It might have been something that happened 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but it still affects you. So think about that before you go to therapy. The next one is, what are you thinking? Does it control you? Whatever it is, the problem, do you overthink it? Do you ruminate about it? You think about it over and over again? So think about, what are you thinking about the problem? Or what are you thinking that's going on that's really affecting you? Did somebody hurt you? What was it? Like I said, it's important to spend some time thinking about why you're going to therapy, what you need help with, how do you feel about it? You want to, there's all different ways that you can do it, but there's a feeling wheel on a Google that you can download. There are, different ways that you can just determine, how did you feel. But there's so many more emotions than happy, sad, overwhelmed, frustrated, angry. There, so you want to think about what it is that you feel. How are you feeling? What happened? Who else have you considered, or how long has it been happening, or what was a turning point, or why do why do you want to get help now? Why do you want to talk to a therapist about this now? What are you saying about it? That what's going on in your life? What are you saying? Because our words have power, right? If we say negative things about our situation, it's going to continue to get worse. And so we got to be thinking about, what we're saying, and how we can change what we're saying from something negative to something positive, or reframing it, or, asking yourself, making it into a question, and so maybe you think about it as, how can I solve this? What's the solution? What do I want to see happen? Think about what needs to be addressed from your point, from you first, and then from the other person. Maybe it's, you just write them a letter of what you want to say and then never send it. Maybe it's just something that you just got to get out of you, onto paper. But you got to be looking at what needs to be addressed. And so sometimes for us, it's, we need to set boundaries. That is our problem, is we don't set boundaries. It could be we haven't been honest. We haven't said how we really feel. We haven't, whatever our expectations are, we haven't said that. It could be that we were hurt and somebody else hurt us, and then we brought that into a new relationship. So it's all different things that need to be, you need to kind of sit down and figure out. And of course, the therapist can help you with some of this, but some of this is, you need to sit down with yourself and just ask yourself some hard questions. What are you doing? What are you doing with the problem that you have now, the issue that you're wanting to go to talk to a therapist about? What are you doing? And then what do you need? And a lot of times we haven't sit down and think about, what we're doing. Sometimes we're making it worse every day. Every single day we're making the problem worse. And what do we need? Sometimes we don't know what we need because we haven't taken the time to figure it out. So what is it that you're doing as far as the problem is concerned, and what is it that you need? And so it's important to be honest. If you're gonna spend your money, go talk to a therapist, be honest. They're there to help you and support you. The next one is, who am I? And so sometimes we go to therapy and we have spent our whole lives taking care of other people. We spend our whole lives obsessed with other people and how they feel and what they think and what they want and what they need. But we haven't considered anything about ourselves. We haven't thought about ourselves. We just know that we're unhappy, but we haven't sit down to really figure out what's going on, figure out why we are the way we are, figure out who we are. And the last one is, what have I been through? And so this is kind of like back to the beginning, but you got to be thinking about what you've been through, because typically problems compound, issues compound. They don't just stop, because we push them under the rug, we push them to the side and say we're going to deal with it later. Typically it causes more issues until we are able to deal with it. So we got to sit down and figure out, that this one problem caused 10 more problems. So think about that for yourself. And then what is holding me back? And so typically we go to therapy because we need clarity, something that's holding us back. We have an issue that needs to be resolved. We need to talk it through. We need to walk it through. And we need tools to help us to be able to do that, to be able to heal. And so think about that when you're going to therapy. Just know that it's not going to be a magic pill. Typically, it's going to take several sessions depending on who your therapist is. And you're going to have to do some work. You're going to have to do some soul searching. And so I didn't realize how much work you do outside of therapy in order to see any results in therapy, to get the breakthroughs, being honest, sitting down and really saying to yourself, talking to yourself, just kind of figuring out the things that have happened, why they've happened, or what could be the issue, or anything that's connected. And so this is important. If you're going to go to therapy, do the work, spend some time alone, sitting down by yourself, asking yourself the hard questions. What brought me to this place? What is the problem? What do I need to address? How do I feel about this? What part did I play? And so there's just things that you can do to help yourself to make therapy more valuable for you. So just think about this. If you're planning on, or if you're already in therapy, just think about this, how you can make your experience better.